Hypixel Bedwars has received its worst update just a few weeks ago. You might have already seen it and noticed it, or you may already have watched some videos on it, but the short story is that Hypixel Bedwars queues no longer show you who you're queuing, which is honestly one of the worst changes I feel has happened to the game in the longest time, and I'll be explaining my reasoning why, and I'll also be talking about the future of this update because if anything, it's only going to become worse. But yeah, I talked about this in my last video a little bit. I think that this is one of the worst changes to be made to the game, and I'll be explaining my reasoning why, and I'll also just be talking about the update in general. I do have some stuff to talk about that makes this video a little worth being late, because there's some things I've not seen other YouTubers talk about regarding this that I feel are worth it mentioning because it might be something impactful in the future of the game. So yeah, I'm Alex, welcome back to another Hypixel commentary. I guess this isn't really a news video since I am a bit late to the subject, but I guess we do have some new stuff, so I guess welcome back to another Hypixel news video anyways. Today we're going to be talking about the hidden names, the obfuscated names is the correct term, in Bedwars queues, and duels as well, because they were there in duels before, but now they're just not crackable. You could kind of like see who your opponent was within the API and stuff, but since that's no longer possible, I guess it's time for us to take a deeper look into everything and talk about why this change was made, give my thoughts on it, and yeah, let's get into it. Now, this whole thing kicked off and the update happened back on Wednesday, August 28th of 2024. And on that day, we got two forum posts coming in from Hypixel and the Hypixel team account. The first one reads, "Hello everyone, today we have introduced a significant change to the pregame of Bedwars, the obfuscation of player names. While this change may raise some concerns, we believe it is a necessary step to improve the overall game experience. Queue dodging and sniping facilitated by player overlays and third-party programs have long been issues in the Bedwars community. By obfuscating names, we aim to address these problems and ensure that players of all skill levels can enjoy the game on a more level playing field. We want to ensure that we have been continuously improving our obfuscation system to prevent any bypasses. As of today, we are confident that the system is secure against any known bypasses. This will significantly help alleviate any game sniping that would have been abusing the previous pregame system. We will continue to update the system to prevent new bypasses as soon as we find out about them. Additionally, we were aware of inconsistencies in the obfuscation system used in duels, and to address this, we have implemented the new Bedwars obfuscation system into duels as well, making sure that it is consistent across both game modes. We have also made some very slight tweaks to the brackets of the soft matchmaking that Bedwars has. You can read more about this change here, which we will soon. We will make sure to continue keeping you all updated regarding any future changes. However, we do not plan to make any changes to the Bedwars queuing system at this time. There was also an edit made around 7 hours after this thread was posted, just basically showing a new setting that you can disable or enable in the API. Now, this setting is just used to show and hide if you're in a lobby or in a game and which specific game mode you're in and stuff like that. So before we get into the rest of this, which is obviously the matchmaking changes which were made, let's first talk about the brand new obfuscation system that, you know, people have not been happy about. The forums reactions are pretty mixed, but the top reaction is the useful reaction on the forums, and the top reply says use that reaction to dislike if you don't have the ability to do it. I don't know how people would not have the ability to dislike, but it was the same thing with the removal of tournaments. Nobody liked that change, and there was like some other reaction people used to dislike it. So yeah, to start off this video, let's just talk about this change. We'll get into matchmaking later. So this change was actually made by Hypixel for two reasons, which they're clarifying here. Number one, stats overlays. People would queue dodge a lot. That was mainly the issue with them. And number two, snipers, which honestly valid. Now, I'm not going to be denying this. You know, snipers have been a big problem within the Hypixel Bedwars community for a very, very long time. I'm not sure about queue dodging. I don't think that's that bad of a change, and I'll be explaining why, but obviously this change completely eliminates the possibility of sniping for the most part. See, I'm saying for the most part because a lot of people actually snipe streamers, and streamers can still be sniped if they show their pregame, you know, while they're queuing. Now, sniping streamers is now kind of reliant on the streamer. You know, they can add stream delay, first of all, and they can also kind of just hide their screen, you know, when they're queuing. But of course, streamers could still be sniped the normal way, obviously just tracking their gameplay directly from the API, which is what a lot of people did. And yeah, that's exactly why this change kind of eliminates sniping, especially this change that was made later on to just kind of hide what people were queuing, because people are going to be finding small bypasses like this probably to snipe people still. But other than that, I do understand the perspective of sniping. You know, removing that possibility visibility or minimizing it the most they can is definitely a good idea on Hypixel's end. But this update's still not fun. I don't like it. I never used to Q dodge, but understand that even if I have half decent stats, I used to be Q dodge myself. So obviously the second reason that Hypixel wanted to remove players' names from Qs is because people used to Q dodge. Most of the times, sweats would only Q, people who you call nons or people who don't have like a good set of stats. But even if I had half good stats, people would still dodge me, and that would make my Qs way easier in solos. And I only really played solos because I only played solos to record. There was no other reason for me to play it. My stats aren't that good, but of course, at the same time, people sometimes would recognize me and just dodge me out of that, and sometimes would just dodge because, they see an MVP++. But that is no longer possible, unfortunately, which honestly, all of this kind of sucks because, Q dodging used to be a staple of Bedwars, even if I barely, if ever, did it myself. Everybody used to Q dodge. It made Qs a lot easier for players. I would say even nons benefited from this because a lot of the times sweats would Q each other and just dodge, and most of the time there would be not that many sweats per game. Of course, there would be those games where sweats queued each other and it was just like a war between them, but at the same time, that was a very rare occasion. And now that Q dodging is completely removed, I myself, in my own gameplay at least, have witnessed that Qs got way harder ever since. I don't know about y'all, but I've been playing party games in my recordings for a reason. First of all, I'm washed. Second of all, I feel like my Qs are pretty much harder now at this point. I don't know if I'm bad at Bedwars. Maybe I am, but like at the same time, I just do not find the game easy anymore. And I feel like this change is probably the reason why. Again, not a Q dodger here. I just feel like the Qs have gotten harder since Q dodging has been removed because a lot of people used to Q dodge, and at this point nobody does anymore because they can't, and it honestly kind of sucks. So yeah, that's personally why I don't like this change. I also don't like it because a lot of the time I would, sometimes if I was queuing fours in the occasion, sometimes I would queue my friends, either streamers or, just people I know, and we would dodge each other just out of respect or queue each other just for fun. But now we just kind of don't have that choice anymore. And usually within gaming, I would say that, hiding people who you queue is completely fine. Like most games, you're just going to queue in like, let's say Fortnite or Call of Duty, you're just going to queue and you're not going to know all your opponents, right? That's not a problem. But when it comes to Hypixel, there's not that many players. The community is pretty tight knit, and that usually leads to a lot of players recognizing each other because there's not that many players, And at the same time, Q dodging has been a thing for so long. Most of the big win streaks and most of the high stats players you see nowadays are because of Q dodging. And I feel like if this change was made, near the beginning of the game, maybe that would have been a good idea. But at this point, I feel like it's too late. I feel like it is going to take the community time to adapt. It's going to take a little while for everybody to kind of get used to this change, which, again, I don't like it at all. I may grow accustomed to it if I keep playing, which I haven't been, but if I do start playing again, maybe I'll get used to it. I'm assuming the community already is used to it, but yeah, again, I'm just not a fan, and it's a sentiment that I've been seeing around a lot from like literally everybody. I'm gonna say mention some names here. Both newer Bedwars creators have been talking about this, but also older ones, let's say GamerBoy80 and they're pretty old staples in the Bedwars community. Both of them, they said it's not a good idea. And I mean, GamerBoy80 is not a creator who sweats usually. If you guys know him, he used to be like #1 in the Bedwars leaderboards, kind of the certified GOAT. But like he's not a sweat, and he doesn't find this change to be good. And I feel like that speaks volumes. That both newer and older players are disagreeing with this change. I feel like that really says a lot about it. But yeah, I mean, like usually again in gaming, you don't see your opponents, but it's just not like something we're used to in Hypixel, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I think what's next is they're going to be removing pre-games. That's what they're looking into doing. If you guys don't know, servers like MCC Island, they don't even have pre-games. You're just kind of queuing in the lobby. It shows that you're queuing and whatnot. And at some point you get in the queue. Apparently this was meant to happen according to Kecker, an old Hypixel admin. Now he edited his message talking about this, but basically he said that Simon Hypixel himself was like, nah, we're not going to make that change. We're not going to make it like MCC Island because I feel it's too complicated. But yeah, it looks like they're going to be taking the system even deeper by just removing the pre-game concept from the game entirely, which I guess we'll see how that happens in the future if they choose to do it. Okay, that aside, let's talk about matchmaking because I feel like I'm yapping too much. Now, Bedwars matchmaking has been changed recently alongside this obfuscation change, and for the longest time, Bedwars has had matchmaking, very soft level of it. It's kind of skill-based, but not really. Hypixel really wants to clarify it's not skill based, but I mean, your star kind of, you know, a little representative of your playtime, so obviously you're going to improve the higher star you are. Now, beforehand, if you were level 15 or above in Bedwars, you would queue basically everybody in the game, but if you weren't level 15 or above, you would only queue players from level 1 through 15. Now, the way this worked was basically if you had a party that was like all under level 15, you guys would queue players who are all under level 15. But of course, if the party had one player who had like, you know, 600 stars, you guys would also just queue other people above level 15. It was a very soft level of matchmaking. It has now been changed to 3 different brackets. So players from level 1 through 10 will now queue each other, and then players from level 10 to 50 will now queue each other, and then everybody else from level 50 and above will now queue each other. And also, if a queue is queuing for more than 30 seconds, everyone will be able to join it. So sometimes you may get high level players even if you're a low level player. And yeah, I mean, I don't like this new matchmaking. I understand the thought behind it. Basically, they did the Slumber Hotel update a while back, which made people level up faster. So obviously, that made people's star be less indicative of their skill and the hustle and the grind and whatnot. So Hypixel probably did that to account for the new players who probably aren't that good but still have a higher star count nowadays. When this change was made originally, I was getting reports of like very impossible queues, like queues that were just not queuing at all. But Hypixel says that this is not something that has happened. And I mean, for now, I haven't seen any queues have any problems like that. So I'm just gonna assume that that was just an issue when they made the change, as like a little bug. But yeah, that was changed, and then player names were changed as well. So those are the basic Bedwars changes. Of course, we got this new system done in duels as well, without the matchmaking part, obviously. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm a fan of it. Obviously, duels has had hidden names for the public for a long time, but at this point, everybody in the duels community already used stats overlays. Now, I don't see how this change in duels is really gonna impact it positively. A lot of duels modes are pretty dead, and sniping in duels 100 times easier than doing in Bedwars, okay? So I don't think this is gonna impact the sniping problem in duels very much. And second of all, I think that this is just gonna be worse for legitimate players, and I consider people who use stats overlay in duels legit, because, you know, people used to grind win streaks in duels, and everybody really did it only because of stats overlays. They would dodge people who are certified cheaters, and they would also only queue people who hadn't gotten the best stats, so sweats on that sweats wouldn't really happen a lot. But yeah, it seems like that era of duels is also over, which kind of sucks, because I guess we're not going to be seeing any new legitimate players in the win streak leaderboards, if there were any of those anyways, but you know what I mean. So yeah, again, just disappointed with the change. It feels like it came from a high management point of view, because the community doesn't really seem fond of it. And I understand that it may be useful for newer players to not only queue sweats, but that wasn't really happening to newer players as far as I know. Like, people would always queue sweats in Hypixel since day one. If you joined Hypixel in 2021 or 22, you were already a bit too late. Like, everybody you would queue was already sweating, and that didn't change because of stats overlays becoming more popular over the years. That only really changed because the community, it was drying off, and the only people who are left were sweats. The same thing has happened with many games. I would say Fortnite was an example, but I'm not really sure if that's the case. But I heard a lot that people who don't play Fortnite don't play it because the only people who are left were sweats, right? So, but yeah, anyways, that's just my thoughts on the whole thing. Do comment yours below. I'm very curious to see what you guys think. I've been Alex. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love y'all, and yeah, see ya.